It has taught me the catchphrase. I've kind of appropriated part of it, and I created the other half of it. Um, I love to laugh. I'm in the happy business. My job, all I have to do is start doing this, and then my friend Michael will do what he's doing right now. It could be gas, but I prefer to think it's smiling. Or if I say Nerf or hello, Michael, it just makes, or turtle power, or butt cannons. It has whatever it is. Laughter, as we all know, is the best medicine. I know that because my doctor said don't stop laughing.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Kahan.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. This is a man who lives and breathes inspiration to go through his life hurdles and challenges and still have this amazing, optimistic, and kind outlook is incredible. I don't think I've ever met anyone with such a positive viewpoint. It is brilliant and contagious. This chat was an absolute joy. I learned and gained so much from it. I walked out of this podcast feeling inspired, light, and grateful. Rob could be one of the most inspirational men on the planet, no joke. It's also crazy how Rob initially started out as a singer who was pursuing on-screen acting and didn't really think much about voice acting, and now he's one of the best of all time. It's funny how these things happen. We think we want something, but then the universe has other plans for us. I also love his book, Voice Lessons. He also has a website, and I believe he offers voice lessons as well. Check it out on his website, which is in the links in the episode notes. Okay, cool. Let's get into it. Rob Paulsen is an award-winning voiceover artist, coach, and author of Voice Lessons. With over 2,000 half-hour programs, dozens of films, video games, and other animated media to his credit, Rob has been one of the industry's hardest working, most in-demand, and most beloved voice artists, earning him a Daytime Emmy, Peabody, and 3 times winning the Annie Award. For nearly 3 decades, Rob has voiced some of the most beloved animated characters, such as Pinky from Pinky and the Brain, and Yucko from Animaniacs, Raphael and Donatello, 2012, from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Carl Weezer from Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, and many, many more. From the start of his career voicing the character Snow Job from G.I. Joe to his most current job reprising his characters in Steven Spielberg Presents Animaniacs on Hulu, Rob's voice has reached millions of people worldwide. In his memoir, Voice Lessons, Rob talked about how he won the biggest fight of his life, defeating cancer of the throat after a grueling year of aggressive treatment. Rob also shared his experience in a moving TEDTalk in his hometown of Detroit. As a coach, Rob is also available to talk shop by sharing his wealth of knowledge from his decades in the biz and helping people prepare for upcoming projects and/or auditions. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, and we chat about why he's the most light and grateful person on the planet, Rob's incredible philosophy and mindset on life, resilience and lessons from cancer, Animaniacs, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, why he loves what he does, his many voices, people trying to sell his signature, joining the Covenant Players, living in his van, making courageous and difficult decisions, plus plenty more. Before we get into this epic chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Kahan. That's Kahan with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny in Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out at 3:30 Melbourne, Australian time, with the full video of the podcast to be released the following day. Okay, cool. Thank you. Let's get into it. Well, I'll just continue the conversation from before. You were telling me how much you love conventions and Comic-Cons.
Yeah.
What do they do for your soul?
Boy, what do conventions and Comic Cons, one and the same really, but what do they do for my soul? They light it up. Um, I'm good at my job, but I ought to be. I've been doing it forever. Um, Ain't nobody shoves a gun in your mouth when you decide to be a performer or a professional broadcaster. In fact, often people who love you try to dissuade you
Yep.
from doing that. Uh, Now that I'm almost 70, I've been in LA for 47 years, and now to have the privilege of talking to nice folks like you, and my goodness, honestly, Michael, the meeting all the impossibly kind people, whether I'm in Perth or one of your other lovely cities, or LA or Long Beach or New York or Ireland or Abu Dhabi, uh, it's just overwhelming. And the upshot of the conversation is always the same. Everybody smiles. And I believe that I'm the one that gets the most out of the exchange because I'm essentially in the happy business. Um,
Cool.
and if I'm out, excuse my doggy, if I'm out in the public and somebody recognizes me, which happens more and more because I'm like an old shoe, I've been around. Um, again, it is nothing but joyful. Are you Rob Paulsen? Yeah, are you with the Internal Revenue Service? Are you the tax collector? And they chuckle and say, "Oh my gosh, I can't tell you what Carl we." Oh my gosh, well, thank you very much. I'm gotta tell you, you're way hotter than Jimmy's mom. And oh my God, people laugh and then they hear me and they say, "Is that the guy?" And one thing leads to another, and everybody is joyful. So there really is no incredibly articulate response to your very simple question. It just continues to remind me why it is I do this. I've been rich and I've been poor, rich is better. However, the Jones to create, to get the reactions that I'm privileged to receive, have nothing to do with my paycheck, ratings, merchandise. Some of these characters and some of these shows have arguably become sort of iconic. And when I see two and three generations of the same family who love Animaniacs
Yeah, wow.
or Pinky and the Brain, oh my God, it's just, can't get enough of it. It's the best part of my job.
It is extremely rare to hear someone with your outlook and to still, doing it for this long, to still feel the inspiration and to still get back, still to feel something from someone else. Often in life, when someone's been doing something for a while, we could just see it as another job, another day. But Maurice
Yeah.
Lamache, your friend, for example, he said that you give the most at these conventions. He said
Oh,
that
that's very kind of it.
oh, he's a great human. He says you genuinely love it, and it's not just something that you're doing. And I find that amazing because, as I said, when you've been doing something for a long time, it could just be another day, but you still feel inspired. Is that just something you've taught? I know we'll talk about your cancer journey and all of that stuff. Or is that just how you are? You're just so happy to be doing what you're doing.
I think it's kind of the cut of my jib, Michael. Honestly, I still remember in grade two, I guess I was, I don't know, 8, 7, and my teacher pinned a little note on my shirt, and I walked home from school in those days, and my mother said, "Oh, what's this?" And the teacher said, "I just wanted to tell you what a pleasure Rob is. He has a very sunny disposition." And I do. I'm really no different. The Jones to create is no different at 69 and change than it was at 15. I do it probably like you started your show. I do it because I can't not do it. And to the extent that Maurice has said such kind things about me, well, firstly, he's correct. I do love it. I genuinely do love it. But I, I hesitate, while I certainly accept the kind compliments that Mo, I'm not like a brother, and you and others continue to give to me in that context. I won the lottery, and I know it. I'm getting paid American dollars to do what used to get me in a little bit of good trouble in grade 7.
How cool.
And people will fly, certainly drive from wherever, even overseas sometimes, if they find out that I'm going to be in a city that's easy for them to access. And they learned my name. They watched when they were kids. Now they watch them with their kids. And they said, oh, yeah, this guy does this. And Pinky is also, Yakko is also, Carl Weezer is also Raphael and Don, all that. But I'm not the only one. There are lots of us who do this job. There's something about the folks who go out of their way after watching things on which I'm a performer. I don't draw them and I don't write them. It takes a couple hundred people. And in the case of an up higher end show like Animaniacs, almost $500,000 per half hour. But you got Steven Spielberg, so you get a full orchestra, you get everything, and it's stood the test of time. So when people say, I've been watching this with my kids and my grandparents and blah, 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 and we've been fans of yours for 25 years, and now we have a chance to meet you. We flew from Edmonton, Alberta. Okay, right away, they take about a 25% hit on Canadian money just coming over here, right? Yeah. So and by the time they get to the hotel, they've had to rent a car. They spent money to fly. They might bring 2 kids and mom and everybody. Before they even walk into the event, they probably dropped a couple thousand Canadian dollars. And it doesn't go very far down here. $1 Canadian goes about 75 cents US. Yeah, it's probably and by the time they get to me, they've been watching forever. They become fans. Unbeknownst to me, they chose to do that. They chose to share it with their children. Then they get a hotel. They rent a car. They buy gas. They had to pay to get into the show. They find my line. I like to do what I'm doing now. I like to talk to everyone. And they will wait as long as it takes to make it up to me, and make it to me in my line, and often through tears and maybe a little bit nervous, thank me, Michael. That's where I get a little tongue-tied. And so, yeah, I'm pretty effusive, and some would even say, geez, Rob, you're kind of going over the top. Well, I don't think there's no top. These folks have spent their money. They share my work with their most precious things in the world because they want to connect with their kids and laugh together. Holy shit. How on earth? And I'm a guy who's almost 70. No one my age, with very few exceptions, many of whom are people I work with, has a job in which we go home from 3 solid days of meeting people, utterly exhausted, from saying thank you, from thanking people. It doesn't really get any, no agenda, no politics, no religion, no nothing. It is simply about, this means so much to us that we have to tell you. And truthfully, shame on me if I didn't become super effusive. Anyone who makes a dime doing this is pretty fortunate, because the odds of me being here at 70 years old talking to my friend Michael are pretty astronomical. I make it clear the characters are the famous ones. I'm grateful that people like it when I start doing this, including you. Look at that handsome face of yours. It's the wonderfulest part of it. But honestly, man, I appreciate the kind remarks, but I have to say Billy West is the same, Tom Kenny, the same, Tara Strong, the same, Frank Welker, Peter Cullen, I've seen, and Mo, same thing with Maurice. I've seen them all. Jim Cummings with people who they'll be talking to Maurice and they start to get tearful. And they all go, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And then I stop them and say, no, don't you dare apologize. This is something that really connects with you. And I live for this stuff. And there will come a day where I won't have the same juice to do it as much as I do, but not now. And it's just, I've been to Australia a couple of times and I'm ready to go back because I love it down there. And it reminds me a lot of Southern California on your Gold Coast. And everybody down there, same thing. The UK, Ireland, just lovely people. All my friends who are part of the Commonwealth are just delightful. Canadians too, really nice people.
I know I'm going to say this probably many times in this podcast, but it's very rare. And I know you're extremely humble. It is extremely rare to have that mindset. I'm grateful for hearing it. It's very inspiring. It makes
Thank
me,
you.
it inspires me to do what I'm doing, also from the screenwriting side,
Well,
knowing that.
that's the point, isn't it? I mean,
Mm.
Jesus Christ, we have never been more connected. And forgive me for interrupting,
No,
but
no, no.
you make such salient points, and we are quite locked in at the same mindset. We've never been more connected in the history of humankind, ever. I'm talking to my friend Michael in real time. You're 8,000 miles away or something.
Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
And yet there are people who take this wonderful technology and use it for nefarious purposes, often against children. You know, people who will talk to young girls or young boys and convince them to hurt themselves. So if we had these opportunities and you and I broadcast Funny and Failure, and I love that title, that if we can't do it to help one another out, what on earth is the point? Why bother? And you and I, in our own way, are doing what we can to make our circle a little better than it was when we got here. By the time we check out, I'm closer to the end than you are, but boy, what a ride. And if I get to go out in the final act of my life/career, exhausted from saying thank you, and it's a great way to punch your ticket. And I appreciate your kind words about the fact that my behavior is rare, and that's a shame to me. The people I have had the privilege of working with people, Michael, who could behave any way they want. They've got all the money, the private jets, Oscars, and they choose to be decent. When Steven Spielberg shows up either at a cast launch of something he's produced or an event, he understands the power of his presence. So when he shows up at those things, he is all about the people there who made him Steven Spielberg. Shakes everybody's hands before people have try to muster up the courage to say, Mr. Spielberg, may I get a picture? He'll say, hey, Michael, do you mind if we get a picture? Because he knows everyone wants one, and he doesn't want them to be uncomfortable in asking. But he could just come down, stand at a podium, or say, hey, it's been a pleasure. You guys all did a great job, and look forward to the next one. And that's it. And they'd say, oh, great, my God, Steven showed up. He doesn't just show up. He's us. And so every now and then I'll hear of somebody that shows up at one of these glorious conventions and they just do this. Oh, yeah, I know, I'm the voice of your childhood. Thanks, man. No, it's really nice. Yeah, great. Hang on a second. No, I'd like I'd like a turkey on, yeah, like that. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, what's your name? Yeah, okay, here you go. And most of the time, the people, they just accept it. I understand why, because they just want a piece of whomever they find inspirational or entertaining, or they just love them. Fair enough. And I don't have the issue with walking into a grocery store where the store shuts down because I'm there. That's a different animal. But the people I know who do have that juice work it out. They have somebody go do whatever is the menial stuff for them. And then if they go out, they are prepared to say, look, just let me finish my dinner and I'll be happy to take a selfie with you.
Yeah.
You know, they're not mean, but if somebody gets mean to them, then they can get a little gnarly. But most people are quite respectful. If they're not, that's different. But when you show up at a Comic-Con and ain't nobody forces you to go, they give you a first class ticket, they give you food money, they also provide you with food, they give you a place to set up and sign stuff, you make a little bit of money, and if you're lucky, you have a really long line. And if you're not the way I and Billy and Mo are, then don't show up. Don't come. It's real simple. I know why you want to show up, because it's easy money. But you know what? It wasn't easy for the people to get there. And the only reason you're in this position, asshole, is because these people went out of their way to watch your stuff. And you better save your money because you're not good enough to be that shitty to people. So yeah, I have no patience with that at all because I work with too many people who could, and they just are the salt of the earth. Mark Hamill's another one. Absolutely wonderful.
Oh, I thought you were going the other way.
Yeah, no, she's another one. Just I've been with him so many times I can't tell you. And if his line is an hour and a half long, he can't spend 5 minutes, but he can shake hands and look at them, shake their hands with both of his, and say, "It is such a oh my goodness." And this is your son? Oh wow. Well, live long and perspire. Oh, wrong show. May the force be with you. Oh, just gracious and kind, and he might at the end of the day spend an extra 2 hours totally in line. So what? He's Mark fucking Hamill because of all those people, and he gets it.
That's amazing, and once again, I'm gonna stop saying this. I love that, and
Thank
the
you.
journey of a voice actor is not easy. We'll get into that.
Thanks, pal.
Mo gave an example, and you've probably had this as well, and I'm sure you've got a similar mindset where I think people would meet him like at airports to get his and they're like just one more, and he gives a different type of signature. Do you have people like that where they use you for your signature and try and sell it, and how do you deal with people like that?
The only time I really deal with it is when I'm on my way to an event, and I don't know how people do it, but I've had fans who meet me as I get off the plane. So they've had to buy a ticket, apparently a refundable one, and then find out what the manifest is. I mean, I'm not Mark Hamill. It's you got to want to find out what plane I'm on.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it.
And I don't know how they do it, but from what all I can gather is they spiff somebody a couple $100, whatever. Yeah, oh my God, I don't know who this guy is, but his name is Ron. No, it's Rob. Yeah, he's with an E-S-E-N. Yeah, he's on this plane. Okay, well here's thanks, $100, whatever. I can't prove it, but that's supposed to be in the terminal at a gate unless you have a ticket. So they apparently bought a ticket. They can get a refund. I don't know, and I say right off the bat, or if they get me when I go to baggage, that's quite normal. And it's often, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 people. They got a lot of stuff. They don't want it personalized because they want to sell it. I have no problem with that. I really don't. It's, you know what?
Mind.
Yeah, if you want to do that, fine. You might get $20 for my autograph on a Ninja Turtle t-shirt. Wait till I die, you'll get 21. It's not that big a deal. But I always say, if I'm there to work, and people are going to pay to get in, I'm not going to sign stuff for them. So I say, look, I'll happily take a selfie. Yeah, but would you sign the thing? Yeah, if you want me to put your name on it. No. I don't. Okay. Well, then I'm not going to sign anything. I will not. I will happily take a selfie and shake your hand, but I will not do that because it undercuts what people have to pay for. And as I said earlier, many of them have to fly to get there. And I'm not going to do that. That's just not fair to the people who've gone out of their way to be so kind. So I just circumvent it by saying can't do it. If I met in public, I have no problem.
Yeah.
If it gets to be where somebody happens to see me and they run to their car and they got 10 pinky pictures, I can't do that. I will say I'll sign a couple of them for you and take a picture and if they get shitty, then I just say, well, you're shitty. And now I won't even take a picture. Goodbye. But that's pretty rare.
Doesn't that blow your mind? Like you've signed like 3 things and then they're like, oh, come on, another one. You're like, bro, I'm taking it. People could be funny.
It does. Oh man, I'm really sorry. But look, I just lost my job and I get it. I've been broke more times than I count. I'm an actor.
My computer died, which is hilarious. So we were just talking about people complaining about you signing stuff, which I think is absolutely hilarious, especially when you're giving your time. Very generous guy. And you're a man of integrity as well, because you're also, the fans that come out to see you as well, you're also acknowledging them as well. So I think that's very important. Anything you want to type on that? Because I've got a few more questions on that before we dive.
No, fire away. I've given enough juice to these fans. What a bunch of assholes. Yeah, go ahead.
It is funny though, because you probably have 99.9% amazing interactions, and there's always someone. But that's kind of life. And, last thing on that, just because I've heard so many people, and I just find this hilarious. What's the strangest thing that you have to sign, or is there a common occurrence? I think Mo, I won't make this all about Mo, or maybe it was Billy West. People said they've had to sign like a fake leg and just crazy things. What have you got?
Yes, well, it's the perennial winner in that category for me is a breast, a woman's breast. I, I generally, I'm trying to think of when I did. No, as far as I recall, I've always respectfully declined. However, one of the things that happens often, they may have mentioned, is that people will get like a pinky and the brain tattoo, really sophisticated, beautifully colored, looks like it was done at Warner Brothers tattoo, and ask Mo and me to sign our names. And then they come back the next day with our names tattooed under the pinky and the brain.
That's crazy.
Great, you've disfigured yourself on my behalf, and that will be with you to the grave and longer, unless they torch you. Holy smoke! Are you sure you want to do this? And so that's always a little bit. It doesn't bother me. At first, it wasn't that it bothered me. I just thought, why would you want to do that? But I learned that that's really none of my business, and if that is how they choose to celebrate something on which I've been a part of creating, who am I to question that? It's their way of being super kind, and I always honor it. But if I had one lady, as I said, who was asked me to sign that part of her anatomy, and she was pretty tanked. They don't often sell hard booze at these events, but sometimes they do, or sometimes
Oh, tank, yeah.
they're adjacent to a hotel, and somebody says, I'm gonna go meet Pinky," and then they've had about 47 Fosters, which I've heard is not as good a beer down there as it is here.
Oh,
But
yeah, no one likes it, yeah.
no one likes it here. Okay, but or just tanked, and probably shouldn't be at the event.
Oh,
And
well.
then really would like it as, and then they kind of almost like make it visible to everybody right here. And yeah,
Yeah, like meet me afterwards. No, I'm joking. That's hilarious.
yeah.
Wow. Okay. You were talking about the journey and how like grateful you are, and I think it's important. We'll give a bit of a synopsis. We won't be able to go through
Great.
all of it. People should read your book or listen to your book. I have. It's incredible. And there are a few moments that I think is really important towards your journey. And
Thank you.
I think leaving to join, I forget what it's called. It was a Christian band.
Yeah, it was called the Covenant Players. I left at 19 years old after 1 year at university, and I told my mom and dad, I'm the oldest sibling, and I said, I'm wasting your money and my time. I said early on, this is people who decide to be performers or writers or whatever often have people who love them while they support them as best they can. They all say, okay, that's great, but could you not go to university first? Or could you not get this done for, what if it doesn't work out? And my parents were pretty good. They weren't thrilled about it, but they said, look, you're old enough to be drafted. You're old enough to vote. We certainly can't stop you, but you do understand that the money that follows you to university does not go to LA with you. I mean, you're on your own. I said, yeah, I totally get that. And whether it was just ignorant bliss or cockeyed optimism, it wasn't like it was terrifying. It was exciting, a little bit scary because it was all new. I was 22 years old and drove across the country, but it's what you do. And I was pretty smart, I think, to do it when I was 22 or no, 19 when I went on the road the first time, because I had nothing to worry about except myself. I could literally be selfish. I didn't have to worry about children or fiance or mortgage payment. I was on the road with other kids who were broke, learning how to do this under fire, as it were. Not literally, but you do it without a net. And that's the idea. You can screw up, but it doesn't make any difference. Um, so yeah, it was. I think it was much more. Uh, if I can use the word, what's the word? I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for. It was much more difficult for my parents than I.
Yeah.
Uh,
But that makes it hard for you because
it, it
you want to
it
please
does.
your parents and you've always got that at the back of your
Exactly.
head.
And my mother, I missed my mother every single day. I missed my dad about once every 5 weeks, and he would totally get that, and he'd be fine with it.
Yeah, I'm
But
glad.
yeah, he wore the pants, and my mom was mom. And however, like I said, she was my biggest, like most kids, my biggest fan. And she did ask me once when I was probably 18, because I'd already had designs on doing this gig. Well, honey, how do you know if you make it? I mean, what if you don't make millions of dollars? What? Believe it or not, there are people, Mom, who make a living in showbiz who are not Robert Redford or
Mm.
Steven Spielberg. There are lots of people like me now who put their kid through school and braces and cars and dog food like regular people. Um, they just do it doing something they would do for free. And since I'm going to spend the vast majority of my life as an adult, if I can if I can find that, I'm in. I don't care whether it's being a vet or a car mechanic or an actor. If you find something that lights you up just because you can do it, and then you find a way to get paid, do it. Um, so I thought if I never try now, I'll never know. And I don't know how many times I'll get this opportunity to pick up and go. So I did. And I remember clearly, though, my mom was, as I'm the oldest, was standing on the front porch as I'd left in my little Honda full of everything I have in the I had to sell my golf clubs to get another
Oh,
50 bucks. Yeah. So I'm driving out with my little Honda, and my mom was standing on the front porch in her bathrobe, crying, going, "Bye, sweetie, I love you. You
that's
call
sweet.
me when you get to St. Louis," because there are no cell phones. But I had the privilege of getting a chance to, my mom and dad were able to see before they left that, I was able to make a living like other people, and I didn't have to live in a refrigerator box under the freeway. And I did have more than a number of opportunities. Once my son was born and became much older, I was able to call my folks and say, "Boy, you had four of us, and I'm able to thank you, having had now not only the privilege of loving family as a kid, but now I have my own family, and I understand the difficulty in figuring your kid out." Because I was 28 when he was born, and while I was technically old enough to be a dad, there's no owner's manual, turns out.
Yeah.
And so there's a lovely Disney film I did years ago that is enjoying this huge resurgence called Goofy Movie. And I had no idea how popular it is with people about your age, say 35 to 50, because it examines what I was just referencing. Goofy and his son Max decide to go away on a fishing trip to bond, to get together.
Mm.
And that example of the difficulties of father and son or mother and daughter figuring each other out is so relatable. It's universal. Everybody is a kid and says, "No, no, drop me off here, Mom." "Well, honey, it's snowing." I know, I know. Of course, I want my girlfriend to see me walk up. "Hey, how you doing, Julie? Nice to,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't know you were waiting. Don't drop me off here." Then you become a dad and say, "Well, let me drop you off. It's raining." "No, no, just why?" And man, that movie nails it. Billy Farmer, who's been goofy, technically and literally, for 37 years, and Jason Marsden, who plays his son Max in that sweet little movie, give in Oscar-worthy performances, man. Again, we don't draw them and we don't write them, but their performances where they're trying to figure each other out. I love my dad, but boy, I love my boy, and I just can't figure him out. And it's just precious.
I'll watch it.
Yeah, it's just adorable. And it also just kind of, oh my God, yeah, this is a tough thing. It's tough being a parent. It's tough being a kid. So if you have parents who ultimately say, well, you're on your own, but we love you. Although my mom would call and say, honey, let me know if you need anything. And my dad in the back, yeah, except food, clothes, or money. Um, and somehow it works out. But boy, yeah, I have had
Well, that's
really,
love. Sorry for
it
interjecting.
is.
That's love in a father. I
It
never protect my
is.
son. Yeah.
It is. And I learned how to take a punch. Ain't nobody gets out of here without some gnarly dings. No one. I don't care how much money you have or you don't have. By the time you leave, it might be the death of a child. It might be a very acrimonious divorce, maybe a couple of them. It might be born with something that makes it difficult for you to live your life, and you figure it out. And this gig has given me innumerable opportunities to have that privilege, to see what a real problem is, to contextualize how upset I am about XYZ at any given moment, because I've seen that, and I've gotten to see, be with children and their parents within a month or two of when the kids pass. And again,
Wow.
not just me. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I don't know how those sweet folks get up the next morning, or brothers and sisters, and move on. So yeah, this career is about way more than showbiz, and I don't think that's unusual for folks who are lucky enough to work a lot. When you're visible at the relative top of your profession,
Which you are.
thank you. We have opportunities, and they're not. It's not putting us out. When people say, like you're kind enough to do this with me again.
It's way
Oh
too
man,
kind.
thank you very much. Well, it is a privilege. There will come a time where people just aren't interested anymore. It's not personal, it's life. But oh my goodness, Rob, thank you. You have no idea what it meant to, you know, Alana, that she got to sing with you on a Zoom call, and she's in hospice now. But you need to understand. Oh my God, Mike. So forgive me for rambling, but when I have these
No.
opportunities, it's all about the people listening and watching to us. It's all about them.
And why I love it, it's not empty words. You can feel it, you can see it, but also, which we're going to get into, hearing about, some of the hardships and struggles you've had.
Right.
It's crazy. I'll build up to it. I just think it's
Okay.
amazing that you've gone through all these
Great.
life experiences and you want to give back. But we'll tie up one of the parent things as well, because you know your parents obviously loved you, but for you to have the maturity later on to go, you know what, thank you so much. I see what you were doing. It may have been unpleasant, uncomfortable, but that's crazy. But going back to the Covenant players, I think this is really
Yeah.
important for your journey. You can correct me if I'm wrong. The confidence, the
Oh,
courage to
was.
say goodbye, mum and dad. I'm going to do something I love. To pursue singing, I
Right.
think singing was the main thing that you had that you
It
wanted
was.
to
Yeah, that
do.
was my first love, professional love. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you do it because you want to get your training hours. And,
Yeah.
it wasn't always easy. I think you lived in the van for a year. And I
Oh,
just want
yeah,
to
it was
hear,
pretty cool.
yeah, very
Being
cool.
following the Grateful Dead around for a year. Yeah.
I'm sure that would have overwhelmed them. But I want to know what you learned and how it helped your skills because, live performance, it's definitely translated into what you do now. I want to hear what was life like and what you learned from being a
Yeah.
part of that
Well,
group.
it was, that there's that old song, hi, diddly dee, an actor's life for me. Um, that sounds great until you said, Jesus Christ, is there nothing else to eat besides ramen and beef broth and bread? Well, yeah, we don't have the money. Now you can go home and, nobody's going to. I've had many friends who've done their thing and they've had enough, and that's the way it goes. But I was 19. I said, well, shit, I'm not going to throw in the towel yet. And the vast majority of it was just a blast,
Nice.
because I was on my own. Well, college, but really on my own, out of touch. I'm where I happen to be, and nobody knows where I am. So that was a first for me at 19. I traveled with other actors, other singers, getting along with that group of people, as well as we were able to for 6 months with one group and 6 months with another
Okay.
in close quarters, is a challenge. And you learn pretty quickly that you don't matter. It's we who matter. Everybody has their issues. Sometimes people don't feel good. Sometimes someone has a crush on the other and it's not reciprocated. And the person who's not reciprocating gets a call from another person. And then all of a sudden the dynamics of teenagers,
Yeah.
happens in a very close quarter. But you learn to work it out. Now, I had also the good fortune of having a brother and two sisters. And so I knew all about, in fact, my mother not to this day, she would if she were here. She would say, honey, you and your brother were a piece of cake. I love your sisters just as much, but boy, when Lori and Shelley got to be about 13, I knew that I was really in for it till they were about 19. And I have to say, as my empirical experience, I can understand that because I recall being with a lovely young girl named Susie, who's now probably almost 75, on whom I had an enormous crush, and we had a lovely little romance. It was great. But every now and then I'd say, hey, how you feeling? Don't ask! And okay, did I say something? I told you I don't want to talk right now. Okay. And then the next day it might take, or 2 days, you haven't talked to me in a couple of days. Well, no, I'm sensitive to the fact that you didn't. Well, that was a couple of days ago. My God. Okay. I am certainly not the poster child for perfect behavior, but I learned a lot, which was everybody's different. Take a break. Don't take it personally. Learn to get along. And that helped a lot. The other thing that helped an awful lot was being on stage virtually every night, at least 3 or 4 times a week in that year. And being with other people, when they go up on lines, you go up on lines. You learn that it doesn't destroy the audience as much as you think. When they're coming to see you, they get that while you are a professional group, mostly in those days it was performing for churches and things because it was all original plays. The Covenant Players, I think, is still around, and they had charters in Australia, the UK, Africa. I was in LA. And most of the things that we performed were moral, ethical dilemmas, where we would do somebody trying to commit suicide and someone helping them out, or somebody talking about an affair and and a kid drugs and stuff. And they were well written. And then we would do Q&A and it was fascinating when we would go to prisons. And I remember being 19, going to San Quentin Prison in the Bay Area of California, in which at the time, Sirhan, who killed Robert F. Kennedy, was an inmate. And it's one of the most notorious prisons that I certainly have heard of, San Quentin. And man, we went in to do a couple of these plays with the chaplain at this prison. And the people the prisoners with whom we were interacting were blue collar folks. They weren't rapists and child beaters, none of that. But it was weird, man, because I remember meeting a gentleman who was about the age of my dad. Lovely guy, smart, bright, very complimentary, very kind. And I don't know how it came up, but I found out that he was in prison for like 9 years for a financial crime, a white collar crime. And he said, I did it. I have to take responsibility, destroyed my family. I expect to pay my dues, and I am. And I don't think I have to worry about that with you because, you're a nice kid and you're doing this, but I have the opportunity now to talk to kids about
To
anything.
him.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be drugs or murder.
Yeah.
You end up like this, and I had a big house, a lot of money, and so and it was wonderful to have the experience to deal with these folks and see how their minds operate. But when we left, I learned why that a facility like that is called the Slammer. And man, we had half a dozen or so of these lovely, they were all men, who were waving to us through the bars. Thanks a lot, you guys. It was a great, we really enjoyed having you. It was you take care of yourself. Bam! Echo, 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 echo. And man, it was, to this day, seeing those hands through the bars, I thought, I'm not going to get a freaking parking ticket because
They
it
could be
was,
inhumane, yeah. But on
oh
so many
man.
different levels as well.
Oh yeah. And there were three women in our group and all of them were lovely. Oh my God. The people who took us around said, you're going to hear this. We can't stop them from yelling through their cells. They're going to see that there are women here. And boy, it was even for me, a young 19-year-old boy. I thought, oh, well, that's something I've never experienced in my life. So the whole thing, I'm not a particularly religious guy, and I never really have been. My parents and family would go to church if somebody got married or died or was baptized.
Yeah.
But learning a lot about faith and people of faith, whether I disagreed with them or not, I met so many kind people who, at the time, claimed that they were compelled to be kind and just and faithful as a result of their Christianity or their Judaism or their Islamism or their Islam. Yeah,
Yeah, everyone knows what you
whatever
mean.
it was.
Yep.
Yeah, and I learned a lot about people of faith. I have my own thoughts about that stuff as an adult, but I am so grateful for the opportunity to kind of see behind the curtain, as it were. It was really fascinating and quite edifying, and the whole experience really set me up for getting to LA when I was 22 finally, and nothing surprised me. I knew that I'd have to audition for everything. I knew that there are going to be million people out there like me, super competitive. So what? You either got you do it or you don't. You got to try it or not. And so I was that experience that I got. By the time I moved to LA, I had 3 years of real consistent, intense live performance, and it really set me up to deal with what you have to do when you get to the big pool, the big kids pool in Hollywood.
Okay, I love that. And you've skimmed over it so nicely as well. But also, it's like growth on steroids. You're learning, about a team, how to collaborate. You're learning
Yeah.
just about life, all of these things that's crucial. I want to hear about an agent that you were pestering in the most lovely of ways. But I just want to tie up, back to the family. After that, you come back home, which, you've had all of these life experiences. You're probably a very mature young 20-year-old. You're back with your family. You've already got your dad on your back. How did you
Yeah.
cope with going back home and dealing with all of that? That would have been
It was,
tough.
thank you. It was a bit of a letdown only because I was on my own. I didn't have to answer to anybody but my fellow actors. And, and I was back at my home, my parents' home. And it didn't take long before the subject came up. It's great to have you home, pal, but what are you gonna? You were making some money. What are you gonna do to make money now? And I never questioned it. I said, "What do you mean? I'm at home." I said, "No, I know, I get it. I got to go to work." And so I worked at a pancake house called Perkins Cake and Steak. See what they do there? They sell pancakes and steak. And they hired me. Have you ever been a short order cook? Sure. How hard can it be? I have made pancakes, but so I became a short, learned how, made omelets and grilled and all that stuff. And I did that for maybe a couple of months. And it turns out that opportunities, kindness, joy, like love, come from the most unexpected places. So I'm working at a cake and steak, doing my thing, thinking, man, hi diddly dee, an actor's life for me. I'm back in Grand Blanc, Michigan, and which I love, by the way. It's not an aside. I'm very proud of that little town. And a friend of mine, a musician whom I'd known since college, really gifted one, said, "Hey, Robbie, I know of a band in Lake Fenton, which is another small town about 20 minutes away. These guys got a great band, and they're really looking for a singer. They would love to talk to you, and they're right now they're the house band at a golf course in in Lake Fenton, and they work there 5 nights a week. So maybe you can." So I talked to them. One thing led to another. I jammed with them a bit. They said, "Great. Why don't you come out, learn a half a dozen songs, and come on out next, I don't know, Wednesday or two, whatever it was, and sit in with us, and we'll see how it goes." And I did it, had a blast. I wasn't nervous because I'd already been on the road doing stuff, and I knew that even if I forgot a lyric, most of the people out there have had a couple of pops, and they don't miss it anyway.
Yep.
The other guys were really gifted, 20-year-old people, really gifted. And I've been in a number of different garage bands, nothing like this. These guys were real players. And I joined the band. I was with them for about a year and a half, had a blast, and worked every night now with an adult, or rather a decidedly unreligious audience. That is to say, an audience who's a lot of times get hammered.
Yep.
You become a human jukebox so that you might be in a club and 6 months later you come back, you do this rotation, and the same people are drinking the same drinks with the same umbrella and still going, Freebird, Zeppelin, woo! And we were a cover band. Our originals were awful, but we did a very eclectic group of songs. Steely Dan, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Led Zeppelin, Jethro Tull, George Benson, really, really great players. The Who, people who could play, especially the Steely Dan stuff, is very technical. Not for me, for the players. And so we just had a ball. We got a great reputation. After having been in LA for a while, there's a great old song that says, "How do you keep them down on the farm once they've seen Paris, once they've seen Paris?" And it was not dissimilar. And so after about a year and a half, I said, "You guys, I'm really getting the itch. I gotta get back. Nothing's gonna happen here. I'm 22 years old. You guys we're all within a year of each other, and I would love it if you felt like we could all pack up and go there. I don't know if we could write better songs, but it'd be great to go together." And one guy was married, another one had a girlfriend he didn't want to leave behind, and that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And so we were booked a year in advance, and I just finally said, I gotta go. And I think I might even put in the book, I had this epiphany thanks to a young fella who was named Mickey. Yeah, Mickey. And I'll never forget this guy. Every night at this particular bar, he would have 2 heinies in his hand, just throwing them back, and often would stand in front of the speaker cabinets, with a Heineken in each hand. And I remember one night we got done and said, "We're going to take a little break, be right back in a half an hour, don't go anywhere." And I got off the stage, and Mickey comes up and, "Rob, man, you guys are the best band in Flint." And I said, "God, you know what? He's right. It's like the good devil and the angel, it's as good as it gets, hotshot. No, stick around. Your mom and dad are here, your friends." Dude, he's right. And ultimately the devil won out. And I said, he is right. There's nobody who can come see us, or me specifically, if I'm talking about continuing to be an actor and a singer, who can change my life 60 miles north of Detroit. Not going to happen. So it took me about 2 months, and they found another singer. And it was hard because I love those boys. and I still do. And they're all doing well and still playing, and I give them credit because I was a much better singer, much better performer when I got done with them. They really, really gave me confidence. So that was the time I moved to LA, and I was 22. It was the summer of 1978, and it took me a year or so to get my first agent, and I still am represented by those lovely folks.
Oh,
40,
amazing.
40, 47 years later, 48, 46 years later. Yeah, just amazing. So
That's crazy.
I'm a pretty lucky guy.
But also on that, and this can be relationships that, of all kinds. It's very tough when you're in something that's good to leave it. Oh, it could get better. You play all these mind games. I know you spoke about the devil. When things are good, but they might not be amazing for what you want. Those are the hardest decisions because often we leave the partner if it's bad. We don't leave it if it's okay. And so I love that
You're
because there
right,
was
Michael.
something within you was screaming, I've got like a bigger purpose or whatever you want to call it. My
Yeah.
intuition, there's the passion for me. I need to get out of here, especially before it's too late. And so I
Well,
think
that's exactly.
there you
Yeah,
go.
that's exactly right. And having met now and worked with people, and we've all grown up together. And now, as I sit and speak with my friend halfway across the world, Michael, about this incredibly wonderful experience I continue to enjoy, I now know Oscar winners and Tony winners and Grammy winners and Emmy winners and all these super talented people with whom I've grown up. And every one of them has a similar story. That is, one of my best girlfriends, incredibly gifted actress, probably in her mid 70s now, and she had to, she was dating the man of her dreams in college. She got a degree in theater, and they, and they both kind of talked about going to New York, which was closer than LA. And she said, I really want to do improv. And there's a wonderful company out here called the Groundlings, from whom,
Yeah, we've had a lot of guests.
yeah, and I got to work with, Phil Hartman and Paul Pee Herman and Cassandra Peterson, who's Elvira, all these wonderfully gifted people. Sherry O'Terry, Will Ferrell, stupid gifted people. I want to go there. And then the boyfriend says, well, that's going to take me away from my family. At least in New York, I could drive home in 5 hours, and I can fly here in an hour. And I'm really close to them. You know how close, and that happens a lot. But by the time we get to know each other, we're in class together, and we all have a similar but different story. It boils down usually to, I don't have the same Jones to do anything else. For better, for worse, I was bitten by the showbiz bug when I was 11 or 12 or whatever it is, because my parents said, hey, get out your guitar, and your uncle loves it when you do that. I didn't understand at the time that he, liked to drink too. Man, you set that hook, or rather, you do that, and the hook is set in your mouth, and you know what I mean. And so there comes a point where it's a lot of fun, and then you say, you know what? There are more people whom I don't know who seem to think I'm pretty good at this, and I love that I can make them laugh. Or if I sing a song in a way that really means something to me, they get a little tearful. I really like this. I not only like it, I crave it. And so then you start looking for every opportunity to do it. And it's in high school bands, then you get on the road with a theater company or whatever it is, and community theater, and 10 or 11 years old, and you do it because your parents do it, and now you kind of go, yeah, I'm singing in church, whatever. And so we all have that experience. Maurice is from Toronto. His, guys would sleep on his couch with Jim Carrey and Howie Mandel. They're all from the same, they all used to go to Yuck Yuck's Comedy Club. And all of them wanted to find a way to make a living doing something they do for free because it lights them up. because it lights other people up. And all of us don't want to get to be, 40 with 2 kids or 45 with 3 kids and 2 in college and say, God damn it, I should have dot dot dot. Why
Yeah.
didn't I dot dot dot?
The life
It's
of
also fair
regrets.
to the people. Yeah, I mean, it ultimately is not fair to you. But once you decide to make that call and you get married, it's not fair to the people who love you to kind of, boy, I wish I'd done, and then all of a sudden you have a fight. Well, are you saying that you didn't like me? No, no, no. It's a powerful draw to do that. So I couldn't say no, like a lot of other people.
It's the courage to pursue something that you love is often, the hardest part is just putting your
It
hand up
is.
and, vocalizing it, which, you spoke about with your parents. I'm sure there are other external things along the way,
Sure.
even saying it to, this amazing band. I think that, as you said, that's one of the, a very important characteristic to succeeding, within a loving way, not about like, which you've never been, where it's all about getting on top of other people, but,
Oh,
within the
no,
environment of
no.
collaborating and loving with other
Yeah.
people. And
I
then,
love learning. I have no problem if I learn from somebody who's a quarter my age or somebody who's 10 years older. I constantly, I've never lost, and I continue to cultivate my ability to be astonished. I can't get jaded. It could be
wow,
something, hackneyed like watching a sunset. It's free. Oh my God, look at that. Or seeing somebody to play and think, oh my God, that young lady, in 5 years, she'll be able to write her own ticket. What? Where did you come from? And they're just like us. They're just like me. But I love the fact that I can be blown away by somebody who wasn't alive when I'd been here for 20 years. It's pretty neat.
yeah, it's amazing. And then I want to type a few more points. This is so much to discuss. I'm very excited. You then
Good.
moved to LA, you're living your passions. Not always easy. There's hustling, you have to do many jobs. One
Yeah.
of the hardest parts in a lot of people's journey is getting an agent. And this almost doesn't even make sense to me. I think there was someone mentioned that you knew this agent and you kept on messaging the agent and
Yeah.
maybe you met up, had coffee. And then eventually that agent leaves and starts their own partnership or something. And then you actually get signed. Can you tell me a bit about that? Because I think I love the hustle and all of that.
Yeah. Well, pretty early on, you learn to enjoy the hustle, or at least embrace it. If you don't
Yeah.
enjoy it, you have to embrace it.
Yeah.
It's part of the deal. What I did was that we used to have magazines out here called Drama Log and Backstage, and Variety and Hollywood Reporter,
Yeah.
and they all, especially the first 2 I mentioned, would have classifieds in the back looking for actors, non-union. That means not a Screen Actors Guild, under the auspices of, not a lot of money, might do it for free. What? Who cares?
Yeah.
You just want to get experience, to show people, because you don't know who's going to see whatever it is they want you to do. So I'd answered a couple of them, and one I went and it said they want a young man, a young woman to host this musical variety show, a cable show. So one thing led to another, and I got the gig with this other lovely young woman named Mandy, and I lost track of her. I would have loved to see her. That was fall of 1978, 6 months, or 3 or 4 months after I got here, and it was awful. However, I got to be on camera, something with which I hadn't had a whole lot of experience. Learned a lot.
Cool.
I met a guy who's still one of my 5 best friends in my life, who was the lighting director. His name is Steve Santos, and I met him in August or September of that year, and that was, yeah, 47 years ago. And we're fast friends. He's no longer in show business. He does great. He ended up being a director in television for probably 8 or 10 years, made a lot of money and retired. Now he's playing golf every day.
Good for him.
Yep. But so we did this little show, and it was probably 3 or 4 months worth of work. It turns out it was probably a tax write-off for somebody that thought he would make a show and he could legally write it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Paid me, I don't know, a couple $100 a week. Oh, I was thrilled to death. Learned a lot. And the wardrobe person said one day at lunch, he said, Rob, you're a funny guy. You're a talented guy. So, well, thank you. That's very kind of you. Have you got a commercial agent? And I didn't know what that was. I said, no, I don't have any agent yet. I'm hopeful that maybe I can get one if I get a nice piece of tape from this. Well, so you've never done any commercials? I said, no, I want to. I'm not a member of the Screen Actors Guild yet. Typical. Well, here's a guy I know. His name is Dick Barth, and he owns an agency called Sutton, Barth, and Venari with his two partners, Vic Sutton and Rita Venari. And the three of them just left a major agency, Cunningham and Associates, which is a big New York and LA franchised agent. And I think they're looking for new actors to fill out their stable. Great. Of course, there were no messaging and no texting. It was just regular mail and a phone call. So I went up to Mr. Barth's office and I walked right in and had my little 8x10 and what little resume I could compile. But people they understand that. You're 22, you haven't been around. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. Dick's busy at the moment. What's your name? Do you have an appointment? I don't, but I was told to. You don't know that it's going to be bam. Not because they're mean, You give them your picture and resume, and it goes right into, as they say, the circular file.
Right.
Not because they don't like you, not because they don't like your mom and dad, because everybody comes to do that. Okay. So I did it several times. Then I wrote letters to Mr. Barth, never heard back, but I didn't give up. And I didn't have any other options. In the meantime, the cable show stopped, and I started cleaning apartments and doing repair work in the apartment complex in which I lived, because I'm pretty handy. And this lovely woman, Betty Peterson, and her husband, Leonard, God bless them, were kind enough to say, he's a nice kid, Can you fix toilets? Sure. Can you put in a thing, a huge U thing under a sink and clean out the disposal? Yeah. You clean apartments? Sure. So I did that, and I would take money off my rent. I had it made. One day, I sent Mr. Barth another a piece of mail, snail mail, Mr. Barth, and I got a little more aggressive. That is to say, Mr. Barth, I'm so sorry if I continue to bother you, but it was. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back a little bit. Dick did send me a letter after probably 4 or 5 of mine saying, I'm sorry it's taken me so long. I'm on my way out of town for vacation. Write me when I get back in like 2 weeks. Yeah. Great. I did that. Nothing. So I finally said, you told me to reach out to you. You said, write me back after your vacation. I have. I've not heard anything. And respectfully, if you're not interested, I'd rather you just say, don't bother me.
Yeah.
Because, I don't want to bother you. 2 days later, he called me. Rob Paulsen? Hi, Dick Barth. Oh my God. Hi. Hey man, I got to tell you, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to lead you on. Not at all. Of course, I was very, yeah, sure. Yeah. Are you available tomorrow at 2:00? Yeah. All right. We're on Beverly Drive in West Hollywood. Can you be here at 2:00? Sure. Of course, no GPS. We had things called Thomas Brothers maps, which were giant maps.
Yeah.
Right. Got there, 45 minutes early. Went up about 15 minutes early. I went in, had my meeting with Mr. Barth, maybe 10 minutes, and very cordial, very businesslike. Gave me a couple of pieces of commercial copy and said, why don't you go back in the lobby, work on these for as long as you need, 10, 15 minutes? Sure. And come back and read them for me. Great. So I did that, went in the hall, blah, 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 blah. Went back in and, you ready? I said, yes, sir. So I was a bit nervous, but I had his attention. And I read, he said, great, let's do it again. Try a little more of this. Great, let's try the other one. Okay. How about, okay. Second door down on the left is you'll meet Lee in there. My mother's name was Lee, so I thought, oh my God. You'll meet Lee, and she will hook you up with contracts. Welcome aboard. Nice to meet you. Hang on,
Just
I'll
like
talk to you
that.
later. Yeah, hi, it's Dick. And it was,
Just
holy,
like that.
I've got an agent. And Dick and Vic, Sutton and Barth have been retired for 15 years. Rita still runs the place, and I'm still represented by them since I signed with them in the summer of 1979.
That
So
is. There you go.
lasts a lot longer than pretty much every Hollywood marriage. It's pretty cool.
It is unbelievably cool, and also the hustle, and in a respectful way. Because I'm sure we've seen, I've even had examples of this where you can do all the hustle, but if you don't have the integrity, then it goes out the way.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
also,
you're right.
you are honoring yourself by sending that last letter and being like, look, I don't want to lead either of each other on.
Sure.
Like, what's the go? And then just after all of that hard work, you get that call, and then so easily in the scheme of things, you get that contract. That's crazy. It doesn't normally work like that. I know you get Jack in the
No,
Box.
you just never know. And that's kind of the fun part and the difficult part of the whole thing.
Exactly, and I think that's also what happened with Steven Spielberg. But we'll see if we can get there.
Oh yeah. If you watch The Fablemans, which is his autobiographical,
I really like that film.
he did. He snuck on the Universal lot riding the tram one day and found an empty office and set up shop. And it's a great story. And
Yeah.
then now, in fact, I worked on E.T. Did a bunch of background voice characterizations for E.T., which is the first time I worked with and met Mr. Spielberg. But oh man, there's an HBO, I think, has a documentary about the 50th anniversary of Jaws. And you see what he says several times in that film, documentary. He says several times, I really thought that Jaws was the end of my career. I was over budget. I was behind shooting schedule. The the head of Universal Pictures came out to visit with me, and Sid Sheinberg, who was credited with giving Steven his break, and it was Steven who had to talk Sid Sheinberg, the guy, into, look, we're that close, and I know we've got something special. No kidding. So Sid signed off. All right, whatever you need, get it done. And here we are. And that movie is still, people
Iconic.
watch it like this all the time.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, also through that, you were second last on the credits, I believe, and that kind of paved the way to meeting Steven and then Animaniacs. Is that how it goes? Through that, they
It
gave you
kind
the
of
opening?
is. Well, I first worked with him on a live action series he did called, oh gosh, uh, I have to remember. I can't. I'm losing my memory. So, Amazing Stories. He did like an anthology story show for I think 2 seasons, and I got an episode of that in which I was hired to be on camera talent. And then, as is often the case when you move to Hollywood, you put yourself in a position to get lucky. It's kind of like what I reminded myself back in Michigan. Look, you're not going to be able to do anything here where anyone who might see you can make a difference. I got to LA, and my ostensible reason for going was TV, movies, music, commercials, all of which I was doing. In those days, it was St. Elsewhere or Hill Street Blues, and I was doing MacGyver, lots of commercials, Chevy, McDonald's, Jack in the Box, Levi's, all
The
that.
whole works.
Yeah, and then maybe a half a dozen movies. But one day, my agent, Rita, who is still my agent, said, have you ever thought about doing animation? Because you're a good singer and you can sing in character and you do dialects and you're a good improviser. Sure. But this was the mid 80s, and there were no satellite. VHS was just coming online. Betamax, no satellite things, no certainly no 24-hour animated channels, and very few animated features. Disney wasn't doing a lot of that stuff.
Of course, yeah.
And so I went and auditioned. And the first thing I noticed, Michael, was when I walked into the first, it was G.I. Joe, was what I read for. I was aware of G.I. Joe because when I was a kid, they were big action figures, not dolls. I used to say to my sisters, "You have dolls." No, I don't. So I was aware of
Yep.
G.I. Joe, but they're making a cartoon. I realized as soon as I walked in, I said, "Oh my God, I recognize that guy from the Addams Family, or that guy from Star Trek, or that woman was on the Bob Newhart show. She was on Laugh-In," all these shows I grew up watching in the 70s. And they were having the time of their lives because it's the purest form of play acting. Nobody cares what you look like. You're not typed, whether you're too fat, too thin, too tall, too short, white, black, green, orange, gay, straight, doesn't matter. You could be the handsome prince and I'm the monster, and then we find somebody to be the monster hunter.
Yeah.
And the next week, I got hired on another new animated series called Transformers. And I met other actors with whom I'm still friends. Peter Cullen, who is still Optimus Prime. Frank Welker, who is still Megatron. And Freddy on Scooby-Doo, since he's been doing it since 1969.
Whoa.
He's still on it, okay? Charlie Adler, who is now one of my dearest friends, is absolutely crazy but gifted actor. And man, I sort of worked both sides of the camera for the next 3 or 4 years. And one day I called my agent and said, "You know what? Unless I have a friend who wants me to do him a favor, and it's probably not going to happen, I want to do this because I get to sing, I get to act, I get to be funny, I get to be a bad guy, and it pays really well. And I'm working with people who are my heroes, people like Jonathan Winters. Oh my God, I'm working with people I grew up idolizing. And I'm glad I did because when I was 36 in March of 1992, I had already worked with Mr. Spielberg and a guy named Tom Ruegger, who created Tiny Toon Adventures, Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, Freakazoid, oh my God, all this stuff. And having worked on Tiny Toons and a lot of the Disney Afternoon, Darkwing Duck, Gummy Bears, DuckTales, Chip and Dale, all this stuff, had a blast. But I got to know all these folks, and then they kind of all ended up at Warner Brothers. And it was, we're doing this brand new show with Tom Ruegger and Steven Spielberg called Animaniacs. It's going to be a brand new clean sheet of paper, brand new characters, very music heavy. And we really want you to audition, Rob, because you've sung for us a lot. So, you're in. And by that, they meant that I'm going to audition. And if I had gotten that audition 6 or 7 years earlier, I would have been terrified because it was a lot of responsibility, especially for the lead character, which is Yakko. But now at 36, having worked with these people a number of times, become friends, socialize with them, worked a lot more work. I'd already been in LA now. I've been in LA for 14 years, 22 to 36, right? And yeah, and it's the only time before or since, Michael, that I walked to my friend Tom and said, "Tom, if you don't hire me for this, you're making a mistake." And he kind of chuckled. He said, I really want you to get this, but you're going to have to, I totally get it. And I knew that it wasn't guaranteed, but even if I didn't get the lead, they'd like what I do enough to bring me in on the show anyway. And that's what I was going for. But I'd already done Ninja Turtles for a few years, and that had taken off. But if Ninja Turtles changed my career trajectory, because once you're involved with anything resembling a big hit, all of a sudden you're on the radar of other casting people. Well, this guy, Ron Pullman, no, it's Rob Paul, whatever. He must be good because he's on Ninja Turtles and that thing's explode. Let's bring him in on our
Yeah.
stuff. But when Animaniacs came along, I thought, oh my God, all right, this is my pitch. And if Turtles changed my career trajectory a bit in town, Animaniacs changed my life. And I knew it would.
Oh, you
Because
knew?
I thought if you're going to sing, it was going to be 65 half hours right out of the chute. Yakko, Wacko, and Dot, and then a cast of characters around them. But Yakko's the lead. Almost every episode, I had a song to sing, original music with a full orchestra, just like Looney Tunes. Tom Ruger with his background, and Steven freaking Spielberg, who did all the casting. Oh yeah, I worked with Right or Wrong. And then, in that context of that show, would you read for this character Pinky? Sure. And the Pythons and the Goons and Tony Hancock, who was an old Australian comedian. Big fan of him. You probably don't remember him, but they were all huge inspirations. And so I just came up with that one day, and Stephen thought, well, that's kind of weird, and it works with Maurice LaMarche doing a spot-on Orson Welles impression. Okay, get our own show. And that show really did change my life. And now I go back and watch it because I can be a little more objective because I've been away from the original long enough. They're really good. I have no problem saying I'm deeply proud of them. And I love those shows. The jokes stand up. Mr. Spielberg on the first day of recording said, we're not making a kid's show. We're making a show for kids of all ages, a la Looney Tunes. Bugs is 80 now, Mike. I could watch Bugs all day long.
Same.
Yeah. And
How awesome is that you acknowledge, because when you're young and you're hungry, you want to do everything, but with that kind of foresight to realize that you actually got your flying hours, you learn how to do it. And then
great analogy. That's exactly right. Yeah.
And it's a skill like I don't necessarily possess. Most people don't possess. Sometimes you need to put in the work to be able to reap the rewards. But then also for you to, which we'll have to talk about another time. But I think it was the Turtles where you're like, you know what, I'm gonna just do voice acting because this is what.
That's exactly right. When that thing hit, I'd never experienced it. None of us had, and it's not slowing down, man. I'm telling you, Seth Rogen's coming out with another Turtle movie this summer, or fall maybe, but it's going like this.
Yeah, it's so popular.
It's enormous. And the people who come to visit me, just like this last weekend, 35 to 50. And the stories I hear about Mr. Paulsen, you'll never know. Ninja Turtles, I was in the foster home system. And from the time I was 5, I had to go to 3 different homes until I was 18 years old. It was really hard. But as long as there was a television, Ninja Turtles became my touchstone, my family. And now I'm here. I'm happily married. My kids are 12 and 14. I'm here with my wife. We're all wearing Ninja Turtle stuff because you will never know what that cartoon show meant to my life. And that is the golden ticket, man. To hear that, I just like we started, I don't know how to say thank you in a strong enough way that conveys what I want to be able to say to people, including you, because you can talk to anybody, and I will never, ever be able to thank folks like you for talking with me twice. And spending your afternoon with me and it's just the best, man.
I appreciate it massively, and I love your mindset. I'm going to skim through a few things because this is crazy. You end up, through those 2 shows, you're killing it. You become one of the biggest names in the business. You're very humble. You don't need to comment on that. Life is going so well. Then you hit there are a few things that happen kind of similar period. You hit like a lull period where you're not working for 6 months. And I don't know when, please correct me with the timeline. You also get diagnosed with cancer, which is crazy.
Surprise.
What did you say?
Surprise.
Surprise. And something that I've been thinking about for a while, you talk about, and you may have even said it in your TED Talk, that you were given the gift of throat cancer. And this is
Yeah.
crazy to me because not only can you potentially not live, but you knew you'd be okay, but you might not be able to speak, the thing that gives you the most joy in your life. And very tough. People, please listen or read the book. It's incredible. But that was
Thank
a very tough time physically, but also mentally. I want to know, how did you, not only help yourself, but also the career as well? Mentally, what were the things that helped you?
Thank you. Well, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that no one gets out of here without trials and tribulations. And as we all know, not anything unusual. It's not about getting knocked down. It's about how hard you can get hit and still get back up. It's like Rocky. And you're right. When I was about 52, I had this marvelous career, working all the time, and it just went like it does for pretty much everybody, sooner or later. Sometimes you got $100 million in the bank, but then you go, it's not about that. I want to work. I want to be relevant, right? I didn't have $100 million in the bank, and I was, I needed to work. But why not me? So what? This is Hollywood, man. I don't own Hollywood. I did freak out. I had a real problem, and it was Mo. God bless him, Maurice, who would say, dude, you're Rob Paulsen. You've won an Emmy. You've been in. It's all right. It's slow. You're going to go play golf. Oh, if I play golf, I won't have any money. And if I don't work, all of that stuff. But I got through it, and I learned not only getting back up, but learning, not being afraid to embrace the challenge and learn. Things got really slow in Deadsville. I felt sorry for myself for probably a month. And then I said, all right, you know what? This isn't doing anything. I've got to move forward. I got to figure out what's going on. My agent didn't drop me, none of that. They just said, it's slow. Okay. So I started guesting on these things called podcasts. And I really enjoyed it. I love doing this. One day, after having done my third or fourth one, I thought, well, I'm not really terribly technically inclined. Like I said, I can fix a toilet and a sink and, nail up a bunch of stuff and put on drywall. But I don't know how to. However, you don't have to be a graduate in sound recording to do a podcast. So at that time, I took up my laptop, a big microphone, a shotgun mic. It was a Sennheiser 416. I think I still have it.
Oh, wow.
A little, a little mixer, and all these chords, and now, of course. And I thought, holy shit, I can call Bart Simpson. I can call the Joker. I can call Batman. I can call Pinky. I can call the Brain. I can call Yakko Wacko and Dot. I can call Homer Simpson. I know everybody in this realm. I think I'm going to see if people like this. And they did. And so I ended up doing 3 different permutations of my podcast over the next several years. But what happened is, thank you. What happened, Michael, and a lot of your friends will know this, but if not, take it from me. Any forward motion in whatever it is you're struggling with is the key. Sticking to it. And I can't speak to everybody who struggles, but we all do. And for me, the forward motion was saying, I'm going to try a podcast. Nobody's doing one with cartoon voices. I can talk to, I can get a hold of Megatron and Optimus because I golf with them. And starting to move forward. People started loving the podcast. I was on a dear friend of mine and Mo's named Chris Hardwick, and Chris is a wonderful actor and started out as a podcaster. He put together something called Nerdist Enterprises, which he sold for a bunch of money. Asked me to be on his podcast, and he had 1 million followers and blasted mine out there. He was on mine, and one day he called me and said, "Hey, man, your podcast is at the top of Apple TV and movie podcasts. I said, come on. And it was for maybe a week and 10 days, but it gave me confidence. It gave me what I had when I got here 30 odd years before. It was 22 to 52. And I thought, you know what? You got to get your head on straight. You're having a slow period. No shit. Why should you be immune? You better figure this out. And necessity is not only the mother of invention, but it's a great motivator. Fear is a great motivator. And it wasn't just because I needed to make my payments. I didn't want to stop. I was having too much fun with people who were better than I and made me better. High tide. And I'm the boat that gets raised, you know? So the podcast gave me this newfound sense of, whoa, I'm relevant. And I can make stuff up. Create stuff, I should say, that resonate. I should do more of this. So it's funny how that happens. You start getting more auditions, and Butch Hartman, and I was on Fairly Odd Parents and Tough Puppy and all these other things at Nickelodeon. So I'd start getting more and more work, and I'm pulling myself out of my little mental hole.
Because that would have also, just on that as well, the forward momentum within your mind would also change, like, I don't know how to say, like the energy around you, just like how you're feeling, and people pick up on it and they sense it and they see it.
On the nose. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the point, folks. Doesn't have to be show business. I don't care what you do. You then start to produce, or you share, as you said, an aura of confidence, not arrogance. Like, oh yeah, I'm a hired gun. I can do, Rob, can you? Sure. But you know what? If you really want a spot on impression, you're going to call Jeff Bennett. He's the guy. And people look at that and say, wow, not only is he willing to play, but he's also willing to say, and not just me, we all do it. I can do this pretty well and come up with a character in that context I think you'll like. But if you're looking to channel this actor who's deceased, you don't want me. But that is confidence. It's not false modesty. I'm really good. I'm really good at this. I'm really good at that. This, I'm good, but not as good as.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you don't care if you don't get the gig, because you know your comedy gets another one. And it does. And here's what happened as a result of that. One day I was working at Nickelodeon, and my son had already started working there in the production as a production assistant. And he sent me a text. He said, let's see. Oh, I know what it was. He said, hey, Dad, did you know that Viacom, who owns Nickelodeon, just bought the rights to Ninja Turtles? And I said, I'd heard something about that. And probably the next day, my agent called and said, as you know, or maybe, and I said, yeah, my kid told me. Well, they're doing another series. And they, that is the creators, would love to have you come and read for Donatello. And they sent a text, and I took a break and called my agent and said, well, of course I have no problem to audition, but do they know who I am? Not out of arrogance, just that I'd been there and done that only as Raphael on the original OG, as you youngsters call it, TMNT. And I didn't want to go in there because I was at that time like 53, 54. I didn't want to go in there and have them say, oh yeah, shit, we forgot he was right. Well, you know what? He's here.
Yeah, I understand.
I didn't want that. But I learned another valuable lesson. I've learned about moving forward for its own sake, whatever direction, just doing it. Now, I learned that my age is my age, and how other people perceive it is none of my business. Nobody cares what I look like, Rob. Remember why you decided you want to do this? Because nobody gave a shit that you were too tall or too thin or too short. So now, these people who got a hold of a whole bunch of Viacom's money, and they're going to do a new version of Turtles, they want you to come on audition. They know who you are. They know you've won an Emmy. They know that you've done anime, all this other stuff. But they just think you might be right for Donatello. So I went in and read. It went great. They said, we'd love to have you come back. So I had to maybe 3 or 4 callbacks. The final callback, I went, and in the same room were Justin Bateman and John Cryer from
2.5 Men.
Yeah, from Two and a Half Men and the one with Jason. Oh God.
Jason Bateman
Oh,
is in the Arrested Development guy and
yeah,
Ozark.
Arrested Development. Right. Both really good actors. And I thought, holy shit. It didn't matter whether I was a celebrity guy or a guy who gets recognized walking down the street. I'm here with them. And I'm at least 10 or 15 years older than they. And you know who it matters to? You, Rob. That's it. Doesn't matter to anybody else. And I got the job.
Amazing.
And I still remember going to San Diego Comic Con, the granddaddy, 300,000 people this year when I went.
Oh,
And I'll never forget, we had recorded for a year or so, and then we went, before we premiered the show, to San Diego Comic Con, all of us. And I remember standing in my hotel room, and I got a little tearful because I said, holy shit, you took a pretty good shot. And you got through feeling sorry for yourself because why? And look at you. You can do this, man. So this is a really, really valuable lesson because it's going to happen again in some way, shape, or form. It isn't all sunshine and roses. We know that. So I'm riding along doing my gig, did 100 and something episodes of the new Ninja Turtles, which is a killer version of the show. Sean Astin was Raphael. Greg Sipes is perfectly cast as Mikey in that version. I was Donnie, and Seth Green was Leo. And the wonderful Hoon Lee played Master Splinter, and the incredible Mae Whitman, a wonderful actress, played April O'Neil. What a blast. It was a big fuss because all these other people were on camera, but they got the legendary, not my word, there, okay? Oh, you're a legend and Animania. Do you still know the Countries of the World song? And and of course, all the other actors knew what I did and who I was, and very respectful. It was great. But I learned that shit happens. So, moving along, and about 50, almost 60, a few years later, I feel this knob, like a walnut-sized thing on my throat. Doesn't hurt. Doing my job, doesn't seem to bother me. Took me 6 months, typical guy. I grew up playing ice hockey, so unless my nose is on the side of my face or I'm bleeding,
of
it's going to
course.
be okay. Stitch it up and you'll be fine. But this wasn't going away. So I went in for my physical. My doctor in 5 minutes, Michael, said, 5 seconds. Yeah, not good. Are you available to go see an ear, nose, and throat doc like today?
That's crazy. Yeah.
And I said, well, yeah, but what do you think it is? He said, look, it's not good. I'm not going to go any further than that. It definitely needs to be, you should look at it today. If I can make the call. He did. I went. And make a long, convoluted story short, it turned out to be stage 3 metastatic squamous cell carcinoma of the throat. And the lump was the place to which the cancer had already spread. That's why it was staged at 3. And the first thing I thought of was, oh, okay, well, here's another your time in the crucible. Here we go. We're doing it again. It's probably cancer. What do you think? How are you going to handle this? I handled it much better because in the interim, not only had I gotten myself out of a really deep hole that led to the Turtles again, but as a result of this remarkable career, which I thank all of you for gifting me with, I've had the privilege, as I mentioned earlier, of being with children and their parents in diabolical circumstances.
Yeah.
Or a young man who comes to visit me and he's in a wheelchair because he can't walk. He's too sick from the chemo, but he and his wife just had their first kid, but he's not going to make it. But he had to go meet Pinky in the Brain. And so I thought, well, you know what? One way or the other, you're going to figure this out. And I thought, even if it is cancer and the doctors say you better go home and get your stuff in order, you're done, I had nothing about which to complain. I'd had a hell of a career, a great
Wow.
family. My son was grown. He was married. I had great life insurance, so even if I cacked, my wife would get over it. She'd have a bunch of money. But what they said to me, the day I got the call, after all the punching my throat to find the cancer and lots of biopsies, it was very difficult. But when I got the call, my ear, nose, and throat doc, who did all the, taking pieces of meat to get checked out, said, "Well, we found it." And I said, "Oh," and they said, how you feeling?" And I said, "I don't know. How am I feeling?" He said, "Well, it is cancer." And I said, "Okay, well, then I guess the next thing you do is, how do we get going?" "Well, I've got some people I'd like you to, within 48 hours, I had 4 doctors in my life whom I still have,
Wow.
who just took control and saved my life. But the thing that really, 2 things. Once I got off the phone with my doctor and I got to tell my wife, I said, "Rob, remember all those sweet kids you've had a chance to meet, and many of them have gone, have left, and their parents keep in touch and tell you how much it means to them that are you fucking kidding me that you talk to them on the phone?" And again, not just me. You Right now, you live in LA. There are 13 million people here. How many people do you think are getting this phone call about their 4-year-old and a glioblastoma in their brain that's inoperable? Or their child is born with a heart defect, they're going to try to do, or they're in utero and they're still going to do hearts. How many people do you think are getting that call? Or a young mom just had her first child and now has got metastatic breast cancer at 30. How many people do you think are getting that call? Shut up. You have insurance, you have people who love you, and your doctors are going to figure this out. And this one final note, when I got to meet my radiation oncologist, the gentleman who put together a very sophisticated program of radiation to, did my jaw and my neck for, I think, 3 months, 4 months every day. They kind of suss you out and they know what you do. And in this case, my doctor is named Dr. Henry Polsky. He's from Russia. He's a slight Russian accent. And he came in and he said, "Mr. Paulsen, it's a pleasure to meet you. I must tell you, my daughter is a big fan of from Pinky and the Brain. She loved the Pinky and the Brain." "Oh my God, thank you, Doc. Thank you very much." It wasn't dour. I was doing what I had to do, right? Just meet the doctors. Whatever they told me, I'd do it. So he says, "First, let me say, we know what you do for a living." He said, "I feel certain we can cure you. But before we do, we almost have to kill you." And I started laughing because I'm a James Bond guy. I love James Bond. He reminded me of Goldfinger, who was a Russian bad guy. And in the movie Goldfinger, there's a point at which Sean Connery is laying splayed out on this table with his legs open and a laser beam slowly coming up toward his crotch.
Yep.
And as Goldfinger is leaving this room, Sean Connery says, "You expect me to talk, Goldfinger?" And he says, "No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die." And it reminded me when Dr. Yampolsky said that, I thought, "Oh my God, I'm getting..." And so, as soon as I did what you're doing, I started laughing. "Oh, that's great." He said, "Also sober, don't lose that. Don't lose that joy, that happy you have with your work. You do it, you're happy. Don't lose that. This will be the most difficult thing you've ever gone through, ever, because you can't eat, can't swallow, you will lose weight." I did. I lost 50 pounds. I knew I was in for something pretty interesting when, among my prescriptions, they gave me one for fentanyl. And I said, "Oh, you guys are serious?" And they said, "Yeah, it's rough. Your mouth is going to have all sorts of sores from the radiation. We've got all sorts of preparations for it, but it's really tough. You're not going to eat, they're going to have fluids to keep you hydrated because you won't be able to drink water. And I thought, oh my God, I could drink water when I had strep throat. Completely different animal. But they saved my life. I'm able to do my job. And now, as this lovely guy interviewed me named Dr. Drew, who is,
Cool.
you know, Dr. Drew? He
Yeah.
had
Sorry.
done a radio program in LA on KBC. It's nationally syndicated. And we got done and went to commercial. He said, Rob, I have to tell you, it's a wonderful book because it's not a compendium of then I did, and then I did, and then I did. He said, it sounds to me that in retrospect now that you are enjoying the gift of cancer. And I knew exactly what he meant, Michael, because as a result of the specific type of cancer, I didn't have toe cancer or hair cancer. And while the cosmic irony was not lost on me, it wasn't, why me? Why the fuck not me? Come on, don't do that. But now, because I had a certain modicum of celebrity and I had throat cancer and I got through it, I can help people. They don't even have to have cancer. I can literally, online, on the phone, or in real life, hold somebody's hand and say, man, I get it, because I do get it. And then
Real
I can
empathy.
also have people who've already showed me, they said, Mr. Paulsen, I read your book. It's called Voice Lessons, by the way, and not my title. It was my writer who came up with it. Very true. And among the voice lessons I've learned are more than once, more than a couple dozen times, where somebody has said of a friend or a nephew or an uncle or whatever, Mr. Paulsen, I read your book, and my great uncle, Larry, had throat cancer, and he turned me on to Pinky and the Brain. And he was struggling with it. I read your book, and I called him, and I said, hey, Uncle Larry, you know, when we watch Pinky and the Brain together, oh my God, that show still makes me laugh. He said, well, you know, the actor, Rob Paulsen, who is the voice of Pinky, you know that reboot that they just came out with of Pinky and the Brain? Rob Paulsen had the same kind of throat cancer you did, and you can't tell the difference. You got this. You got this, Uncle Larry. Are you kidding me? That is a platinum lining. I'm going to die someday, but not from throat cancer, and maybe I will. I don't know. It might come back. I don't know. But I've lived another almost 10 years,
Amazing.
and I've had the most impossibly wonderful continuation of a life I could never have conceived of. All of it conspires to be with my dear friend Michael now, and we don't know who, as a result of your kindness and having me on, we don't know who's going to listen to this and say, oh my God, I got to call my mom. Oh my God. You just never know. And that is what we're all here to do. And we circle right back to the beginning of your podcast, because you're casting this pod, man, but you don't know how far you're casting it and who will hear our lovely chat. And so that's why it is a platinum lining. I'm fine. I'm different because I'm a lot skinnier, but you know, I'll figure it out. And I really appreciate you giving me so much time to tell my story, pal.
You are incredible. We'll end it with this. In a few words, I know this is very loaded. What has cancer taught you about resilience?
Well, it has taught me the catchphrase. I've kind of appropriated part of it, and I created the other half of it. I love to laugh. I'm in the happy business. My job. All I have to do is start doing this, and then my friend Michael will do what he's doing right now. It could be gas, but I prefer to think it's smiling. Or if I say Narf or hello, Michael, it just makes, or turtle power, or butt cannons. It has whatever it is. Laughter, as we all know, is the best medicine. I know that because my doctor said don't stop laughing. The cool part is, though, you guys, is that we can't OD and the refills are free. So laugh from your soul every day, as many times as you can, especially at yourself. It's going to get better. And if it doesn't, you might as well leave laughing. So that's what I've learned. And laughter always gets me out of my dumpy feeling. It always does. So thank you for having me and letting me laugh with you, man.
Thank you. Well said. Before we go, how can people follow you and keep up to date with you? Your book's going to be in the episode notes. You've also got a podcast, Instagram, all
Thank
of
you,
that
buddy.
stuff.
Thank you, Michael. What a pleasure. You are just a delight, and you've been very patient with me. Thank you.
No, thank you. You're an inspiration to many, an inspiration to me. This has been one of the most fun I've had, researching someone and, see you to see you in person. You've delivered them all. Not that I have any expectations, but thank you so much. Appreciate your time. And yeah, very happy to talk to you.
My pleasure, pal. And by the way, I have to tell you that to this day, I still remember all the words to Tie Me Kangaroo Down. Ralph Harris, who used to be a big star in your country, and there was a hit song when I was like 11 called Tie Me Kangaroo Down Sport. You couldn't do it again because it's really quite offensive in the lyrics.
Yep.
But I didn't know anything about Australia until I heard Ralph Harris sing Tie Me Kangaroo Down Sport. So forgive me, I'm not going to make any joke about Crocodile Dundee. I am just a pleasure to be with you, and I look forward to the next time I can be with you guys down there.
Rob loves what he does, as is evident by his generous fan interactions. He genuinely wants to help others and makes a commitment to spread love and positivity. Through his journey with cancer, we can learn the importance of remaining positive during tough situations and find the humor during the dark hours. Rob shares that laughter is crucial to living one's best life. It makes everything easier. Even his doctor reaffirmed this. So Rob further encourages us to follow our passions and dreams. He says if it lights you up and inspires you, you have to pursue it. Not necessarily as a career, you just have to do it because the benefits are enormous. I love how he loves his work so much he'd do it for free if he could. He proudly states that he's in the happy business and he loves to bring joy to others. But I think that his deeper message is that if you love what you're doing, no matter what it is, you are living a great life and achieving so much. So I'll leave you with this epic quote. The human race has only one really effective weapon, and that is laughter. Mark Twain.
Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.